Welcome to NWA Cane Corsos Podcast, where we talk all things dogs.
We all bleed the same sun. Oh, prejudice and pride will make you change. Just always remember where you come from. 'Cause I know you was born to break the chain. So I'm on my way. Yes,
I'm the true champion, and they make me the underdog. I'm gonna show them all they're wrong because I'm the champion. I'm the real champion. There'll never be one like me.
Welcome back to the NWA Cane Corsos Podcast. I am your host, Joe. If this is your first time coming, we talk absolutely everything about dogs. No topics off the table. All right, we've been doing it for a while. We're gonna jump right into it. I gotta pay a bill today. Eric, Bred Concepts, another tremendous channel. He does music as well, so if you guys need music for the beginning of your intros and what other projects, make sure to hit Eric up at Bred Concepts. Yep. Another king of dog talk. So then we can have 2, 3, 4, 5 kings. All right. So, but anyway, Vito, what's happening, sir?
Not much. How you doing today?
Man, I am very good. Just living a very busy life. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I worked. I talked to you earlier. I just got home from work, and I thought, oh, good. I gotta catch a nap because I haven't slept much the last couple days. And of course, I look out the window, and I got 2 dogs running loose. They busted out of their yard.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 hours later, I repaired the fence and got everything done. So here I am. So if I'm a little goofy,
all right, brother. We're glad you're here, man. I wanted a nap. It wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, Vito Alu, everybody. I know many of y'all in the dog world know who he is. He's a legendary guy, man. A very experienced guy out of Missouri over here. Big in American Bulldog. Very smart man. I got many shows with Vito Alu. I'm telling you guys, when y'all come in, please go down in the library. We have a ton of classic work. All right, Vito, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about, mostly about the Brazilian bull and some other topics, purebred dogs, all that good stuff. I guess you've been listening in, you've been hearing a lot of things, and you've been breeding dogs a long time. I remember I was talking to you today, and you was telling me we were just talking about different methods, and you was like, and other shows too. I remember you've done so many things with hips and elbows, tested all kind of breeding very tight. You told me today you don't know anybody who has bred as tight as you have. So,
I only know one guy. He breeds standard dogs,
mm-hmm.
and a bullhead, Jeff Beavers at Bullhead. Other than that, I don't know too many people. I've done inbreeding pretty tight, line breeding. I've done outcrosses. I've done it all. So
yeah,
I guess but I guess I should probably tell people I bred American Bulldogs for 30 years. I still do. I'm not getting rid of them or anything. I'm to the point where I don't have as many dogs. I don't need as many dogs anymore. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I was watching like a Reels or TikTok video or something. I don't know what it was. It popped up, and it had this freaky dog on it, and it was Canal Rocha, Samba Kennels, and it's all this. He was like the new thing, the Brazilian bull. At that time, they didn't call them Brazilian bulls; they called them pit monsters from Brazil.
Uh-huh.
And he came here as an XL bully, and I saw the dog, and he's just a freaky, wide, thick, big-headed, tight-muscled, just a freaky of a dog. And I don't know, something about that dog caught my eye, and I was like, God. And I think it's because when I started out in American Bulldogs, I bred just bully type, and I was a new breeder. I was like a lot of the young guys now, they get in, and most people that breed dogs nowadays, they breed them for cosmetic looks, a freaky look. They're not breeding for a purpose or a work or whatever. They're just the coolest looking dog. And that's kind of how I started. And I had a couple freaky dogs. I had a dog called Blue Ballistic. He was like a white gorilla. Like he had a huge hump neck and shoulders and a big fat ass. And he had a lot of pretty much, it wasn't rip muscle, but he was thick, slabby muscle. He was a cool dog. At the time, I almost sold him twice as a puppy. Because at that time, my brain was, I just wanted to produce a high caliber, structured, moving, working type American Bulldog that was bully. Because everybody said you can't do that. But so anyway, with him, I discounted him a whole lot. I didn't take him to shows. I didn't promote him, but I had everybody coming out of the woodwork wanting to breed to him because he was like 23 inches tall and about 118 pounds. Awesome dog. Talk about good hips. He had really tight hips, great temperament. I bred him a lot, and pretty much he fed my whole yard through stud fees. And I didn't stud him out that much. And at that time, I was busy. I still don't really care to stud my dogs just because it's a pain in the butt. So I used to tell people, hey, do you ship semen? Nope. Do you can you keep my bitch? Nope. I'm not going to do that either. So they'd have to come in, get a hotel room, and meet me once a day to breed their bitch.
Right.
But even with that, he made enough to feed my whole yard. I actually sold him. I was offered a lot of money for him back then, and I loved the dog, so I didn't want him to go to some shit place, some crappy breeder. And there was a girl that had bought a bunch of dogs for me, and I thought she was really nice, and she did take good care of her dogs. She was a vet tech. And so I made her a deal. He was going to live in her house and blah, blah. Long story short, it wasn't a good ending. So anyway, I'm going off on different stuff. But anyway, that dog, those freaky American Bulldogs, like back in the day when I first started, that kind of got me motivated in the breed. That's what really got me into the breed, because we had a dog named Tyson that was 25 inches and about 135, 140. He had a head like a big English bulldog, but a body of maybe a ripped bull mastiff. He was red and white. He was huge, and he had a bunch of brothers that were huge. There was a dog called Dozer Bruno. He was really big. He was a freaky, big, thick dog. So anyway, when I saw Klaus in this video, I'm like, it reminded me of those dogs. And I'm kind of far gone in my American Bulldogs for that kind of stuff, even though I do want to produce a big, thick dog, but I'm too far gone into the structure and working ability and stuff to go backwards. So I don't know. I saw them. Then I started seeing more of them coming over. And then I saw there was a dog called Shake that was Araya Giacomelli in Texas. She's the person that brought Klaus over. And she's kind of the person that kind of really got the Brazilian dogs going here. At first, they just came over because what the Brazilian dog is basically like an XL American bully. Same idea, different method of doing it. And I'm no expert, but from my brief investigations in Brazil, there's MMA is a big thing, jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah.
And so there's a whole culture of young guys that do mixed martial arts and hang out on the beach and bodybuild or whatever. And so there was always a culture of those big pit bulls. They didn't fight pit bulls. They're not fighting pit bulls. They were like the extra large XL pit bulls, but they also were like the real athletic pit bulls. Like anybody that's into pit bulls or bulldog sports, like in Mexico, and they have those contests where the dogs run up the wall. And they do the long jump, and they do all these crazy. You see videos of them. It's like, I can't believe a dog can do that. Like run straight up a wall. So they did that kind of stuff. So that whole culture, and I guess one thing led to another, and they thought, they're like American bullies. They even imported a couple of American bullies, but they're a little different. American bullies, I don't know. Nobody really knows what they did to make American Bullies, but uh, they started with UKC Pit Bull, AmStaff type blood. And the UKC Pit Bull is the same as an AmStaff. You know, in the 1920s, I believe, the AKC started to recognize the pit bull, but they didn't want to call it a pit bull, so they called it American Staffordshire Bull Terrier. But at that point,
Yeah.
at that point, it was the same breed.
Uh-huh.
So the ADBA, once there was a split, the AKC had that dog. They didn't accept anything that was an AmStaff to be called a pit bull. So they wouldn't register your dog, wouldn't mess with it. But the UKC didn't vary any difference, but they just called them pit bulls. But if you could bring AKC Staffy Bull, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and breed it. So that show type pit bull that's in the UKC, they're not game dogs, but they did come from some game dogs, probably. They're more of a show dog. And that is kind of where the American Bully, I believe, started. You know, back in the 80s, I can remember seeing in the back of Dog World and in those big magazines they used to put out, Dog USA. I noticed there was like these bully pits, we called them. They were pit bulls, show type pit bulls, but they had a little shorter muzzle, a little more exaggerated cheek muscles. There was a gal in California called Pam Carter. She had a kennel called Gaff's American Pit Bull Terriers, and her dogs were hellacious. Like some of them were like 85, 90 pounds. And also back then there was a push for some reason to breed a big XL pit bull. There used to be an East Coast breeder called the Land of the Giants.
The Land of the Giants.
And they swore to God their dogs were pure pit bull, and they were 100 pounds, 125 pounds.
Us Corso people are very familiar with them. Wink, wink.
So that whole culture started, and in American Bulldogs, like in the late 90s, I remember there was a guy in Oklahoma called John Blackwell. And John Blackwell was one of these guys that he'd get into a breed. Like he one time was in a Mastiff, one time was an AmStaff. Well, he had just been in Dog D Bordeaux. And then he got into Johnson American Bulldogs. And anyway, long story short, he took a dog from Mr. Johnson called Dick the Bruiser II and bred him to one of his Dog D Bordeaux females. Those dogs found their way into Johnson American Bulldogs, but that's a different story. He had a dog in there that was a big, huge brindle dog, and he gave it or sold it to a guy in Oklahoma that was basically the guru of weight pull pit bulls. His name was Eddie Eddington. He was like the expert, and he was like the guy that had all the best pulling dogs. Well, he wanted a dog that he could pull in the upper weight classes, because pit bulls, maybe you get one to 75 pounds, but you couldn't get one. That was an oddity to get them that big. Mm-hmm. So he took this dog Whopper and pulled it. I don't even know if the dog was that good of a weight pull dog, but he started breeding that dog to his pit bulls and producing big pit bulls for weight pull. Well, early on, he got murdered. I remember all the talk about it. Somebody came to his house and killed him for over dogs, I think. But anyway, that dog Whopper went on to be registered as a pit bull through ADBA at the time, and he had died, and other people that were big into weight pull, like he was worshipped as a weight pull guy, like he was the guy. And so these Whopper pits, they had their own little strain. Eventually, there was a dog off a Whopper called Chevy Red that was like the weight pull champion at 100 and some odd pounds. And there was other breeders that were maybe doing the same thing. I don't know if they used Dog D Bordeaux or American Bulldog or Mastiff. I don't know. But there was like a guy called Dagger. And then there's a guy in Tennessee called Camelot. I don't know what he did, but his dogs are those red-nosed dogs. And some of his dogs back in the day, I don't know if they still do, but they got pretty big. So anyway, some of those dogs were in Brazil. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the core. Those big red XL pit bulls from my research was the Camelot. There was a guy called Thompson that I think was from South America that was doing similar stuff. A lot of it was bred from the Camelot dogs, Chevy, Whopper dogs. Then there's another offshoot called Viet Shark, and there's a guy called Gargoyle out in Las Vegas that has those big. They're always red nose, big pit bulls, And so some of those dogs. So they started with that cohort, whereas the American Bullies started with the AmStaff Pit Bull, UKC Pit Bull show dogs. Now, what they did in America, I don't know. I think somebody got caught putting a press in there. They put a lot of stuff in there because they got dogs that were like 150 pounds, like the Incredible Hulk. Everybody knows the Hulk. Yeah. So who knows what they did? It was all just wink, wink. Here's the paperwork, And they put a lot of English Bulldog in there, and that's where they started making all the different types: the pocket, the classic, the standard, the XL. Now they have other ones that aren't really recognized, like exotics and all that kind of stuff. Well, in Brazil, they didn't hide anything. So that's why you can kind of trace what they are. They used more recently. They took those XL pits. They mixed a little bit of American Bully in more recent. Back in the day, too, they say they imported some dogs off of Dax, who was a pocket, and used those. And then they used American Bulldog. Okay. One of the American Bulldogs that they used was a dog called Iron, Sunshine Bulls Iron. Iron came from Europe, and his father had a bunch of dogs from my bloodline that I shipped, some to France, some to France and the Netherlands. And those people bred the dogs, and somehow it made up a good portion of this dog, Iron. Well, the Sunshine Bulls are in Brazil. They breed American Bulldogs, oldies. And so they bred Iron back to his mother and produced a dog called New Iron. Big, impressive dog. So the Brazilians had a dog that was like the foundation dog. His name is Bearzilla. And he's a chocolate dog. You'll see kind of a weird looking dog with a giant head and a more of a pit bull muzzle, but a big, huge head. But the head isn't big because of the skull. It's big because of the muscle. So they sometimes have a weird look. Some people are like, I don't like their eyes. Their eyes are too close together. Yeah. And I think it's because they have a pit bull skull, but they got muscle. I don't even really understand where it comes from, but it's like 3 times as much cheek, 3 times as much skull muscle. Some of them look like their head looks like a butt crack because they have such a groove in the middle, and it makes their eyes look kind of close together. So that's kind of how they came. That New Iron bred to this female called Flowzilla was a very popular breeding, and a lot of the really crazy looking dogs today, they're about 25% that breeding. New Iron, Flowzilla. So they're the same concept, but bred a different way. And so Aria in Texas, she's my mentor.
Vito got a mentor.
Oh yeah, she's my mentor. She knows the breed. She's very successful in many ways that I'm not. She has a good eye for dogs, and she is like off the charts as far as social media stuff. She promotes the dogs, gets them out there.
She's good.
She's like the big reason why this is all kind of exploded. So she got Klaus, which was a red dog, a fawn dog with a black nose, which nobody wanted because everybody wants. At that time, everybody wanted a tri lilac, all those funky colors and stuff. And he's just a plain color, but he's such a freaky dog. And she had the eye to say, "Hey, wow, this freaking dog is nice." So she imported him, and he made a huge splash in the United States. Like XL breeders are like, man, that's what we need: more muscle, more skull muscle, tighter skin, less mastiff traits, more bulldog traits. is kind of way people describe it. I don't think it's quite that simple, but so he kind of took off, and then she imported a dog called Tractor, who's really nice. He's the first champion Brazilian bred dog in the United States, and he did well. And then she produced some dogs. She imported a female called Bucanas that's just awesome. And then there was a friend of hers over there who's a breeder that produced this male, and he was taken off. And I think she said she saw him when he was like 9 months old, thought he was kind of tall and skinny looking. Well, he matured out pretty freaking nice. They made a deal to send him over for what they'd call like a stud tour. He was going to stay here and be bred to XL American Bullies. He was registered as all the first dogs were registered as XL American Bullies with the ABKC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that dog was Shake. And Shake made quite a splash because he wasn't here that long. He was being bred to a lot of dogs. He wasn't here that long. And then a guy, an American that is actually Brazilian, a real nice guy, Rodolfo, he lived in Brazil. He's Brazilian, but he's an American. He bought him for $180,000. And
that dog sold for a lot of money.
Yeah, he sold for a lot of money, and still he had to stay. He was going to stay here till just a couple months ago in October, and then he was going to go to Brazil to his kennel.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought a puppy off of him, and I bought a puppy off of Tractor from Araya. I didn't think. I thought, I'm just going to get a couple of these. I just want to produce a big freaky dog like Klaus or like Shake. And just to have one or two. And in about 4 years, I'm going to retire completely. And I thought, it'd be kind of cool to have a weird, freaky dog like that and go to these ABKC shows and just chill and then spend a couple days in wherever it's at, traveling and doing little mini trips. And I thought, that'd be cool. And I'd love to have that freaky, weird dog they're like a novelty breed. They're not a working dog. That's not even the purpose. The same with the American Bullies. The concept is a friendly, easy dog that looks outrageous.
Right.
So that's kind of the gist of the breed. So the dogs get over here. Shake gets sold for a ton of money. He's gonna go. Well, meanwhile, I guess a lot of the American Bully people started getting pissed off and saying, "Hey, man, wait a minute. What? These dogs, we don't know anything about these dogs, we want to keep our breed pure and all this crap." And so they had people complain. So the ABKC separated them. The dogs that were already here and registered, they grandfathered in. But any new dogs that were imported, they had a new classification. They had to come up with a new name because they didn't want to register them as pit monsters because they thought, well, that goes against everything they've been trying to get away from, So they changed the name in Brazil. I think they voted on Brazilian Bull.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they're called now.
Yeah.
So now there's a couple, not a whole lot. There's dogs here that are registered as XL Bullies. It can be bred to XL Bullies. So that's kind of taken off. And meanwhile, there was a show in Bloomington, Illinois, a couple months after I got my pup. And Araya's like, we're going to bring Shake. And I'm like, oh, cool. I get to see him again. So I drove. It's not that far from my house. I go there. I met Rodolfo, nice guy, but I can tell he's a professional business guy, young kid. Well, not a kid, but he's in his 30s. And, he's telling me how excited he is to get the dog home. And, he said it's crazy how many stud fees he's gotten. He's got a lot of his money back. And he's like telling me I got people wanting to buy him. And I'm like, really? Who's going to? And I thought, oh, maybe they'll give him $20,000 profit or something. But he told me some crazy amount. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He's probably bullshit. I don't, for me, I can't even believe $180,000. But anyway.
Now Oria did the interview with that guy, right? I think I seen an interview with him, right? And her, right?
She's done. Yeah, she had done stuff. I think he came. Like I said, he was here. At first, he came here as Lucas Pitt's dog. Lucas Pitt is a guy in Brazil that produced them. So he's friends with Arya, and he just wanted to send him over here to get him bred and to get some notoriety, which she did a bang up job. I mean, he's like a household name now.
Yes, yeah, Arya is good. Arya, please manage me.
Yeah, she's good. I don't know, she just has a knack for it, and she's very ethical, very nice person, and she has an eye for dogs. She was in doggos for 20 years and
Yeah.
produced really good doggos. So anyway, so now there is a breed in the United States separate called the Brazilian Bulls, and people are starting to import them now. And when I was there in Bloomington, I didn't know this, but they had somebody that was negotiating to buy him for a crazy amount of money. I don't even know if I should say, but he's gone. He's in China now with the guy that bought him. And so that's kind of the history in the United States so far. Now everything is, I guess the dogs that are here, if people want to keep breeding them as XL bullies. And now it's starting to come in as there's a new wave of people. They're importing them just to be breed as a separate breed as Brazilian bulls, which is eventually what my dogs are, both XL bullies, but registered. But I don't really want to breed XL bullies. I want to breed Brazilian bulls. So that's kind of where the breed's at. So what's interesting and what brings us to our main discussion for the night is the development of a breed of dog. I have a lot of insight into it because I started in American Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And at the time I didn't realize it, but in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, the dogs I bred, I mean, I don't have photo proof of it or videotape or DNA test tape, but I can tell from when I bred them, I was probably breeding dogs that were just F2, F3s, dogs that are just one or two generations from a cross. But they had to do that because even though American Bulldog type of Southern type catch dog bulldog was in the United States for many years, maybe 200 years in some way, shape, or form, when they started out to preserve the breed, there wasn't registered dogs. They were just a type of dog. So they had to pull dogs out of the woods and find dogs and do different things here and there. And then, of course, everybody and their brother crossed and stuff. Mr. Johnson, he used, I'm sure, St. Bernard because we had dogs that come out looking just like St. Bernards. And he admitted to one English Bulldog cross. I think that kind of stuff has been going on. I think it was just the way these country bulldogs were bred. Nobody was registering them. Nobody was like, hey, I want $5,000 for this puppy. If they gave them away or they were $50, and that is the way dogs were bred a lot longer than the way we think they were bred now.
Right. Like you tell me, you say you tell me all the time. Many times you have told me, in those days, dogs, the purity was judged by the function, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. If you just stop and think, all the dog shows, this idea, modern idea of pure breeds, is something that came about during the Victorian period. In England, during the industrial period, people had a little bit more leisure time. So they started having these little different things. They used to have dog trials, hunting dog trials and stuff like that. And then in the medieval days, they had bull baiting, rat killing, dog fighting. They had hunting going back, who knows? So dogs, people think, oh, yeah, dogs just landed on this planet 200 years ago. No, they've been here 30, 40, who knows, maybe longer, 1,000 years. And they were bred, they were domesticated by humans. They weren't natural occurrence. So all these different dogs had a purpose. So for thousands of years, they bred a type, and it was all purely for the work. There were lap dogs, I'm sure, and little tiny, small segment of people that would keep a lap dog, maybe royalty or rich people or, things like that. But most dogs had to have a function because people they having trouble feeding themselves. Nobody had pleasure horses. Nobody had pleasure dogs and pleasure cats. They were here for a reason: kill rats, to help us bring home food, to hunt, to help feed us, to protect our kids, to warn us against raiders, against wild animals, all that kind of stuff. So we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And, it drives me a little crazy. And I was the same way. I had the same stupid ideas, like my dogs are pure. Uh, Purity, 1,500 years ago, whatever, purity was the test. There's an old, I don't know how true it is, but there's a bulldog book, the Bailey Haynes Bulldog book, I think it is. They tell a story from, I think, back in the 1300s of bulldogs were a lot of times were the butcher's dog. So the butcher, the blacksmith, they kept these big, heavy catch type dogs, like a Presa Canario, like a big, bulldog type dog. Great Dane, like a short, fat Great Dane. They were called Alant. A lot of them were basically called Alants. An Alant was, they say, a dog from North Africa. There was a tribe of people. They were nomadic, and they were called the Alani people. And they were kind of sort of they were nomadic, so they had sheep or goats that traveled with them, and they traveled across the top of Africa, up into Europe, all the way to Spain, and then back. And everywhere they went, they kicked ass. The women could ride a horse and shoot an arrow and slice your head off before you knew what the fuck happened. They weren't a warring people, but they were kind of like Spartans. They were, from the time their dogs fought, their horses fought. When I was a kid, I'm a lot older than most people here, but there was always, every year, there was this thing that would come on the TV, the Lipizan stallions. There were these white horses, and I don't know what the hell it was. It looked like a circus. The horses are jumping, up on their back feet. And then I noticed they'll jump forward and kick their back feet out. So I never really knew. I just remember seeing, Lipizzaner stallions. Oh, wow. And so 20 years ago, my friend Cindy, I was telling her, oh, man, I saw that advertised. I used to advertise when I was a kid. I'd love to go see it. She goes, oh, my kids would love it. I said, okay, let's all go. So we all go to this thing. It was boring as hell. I couldn't understand what they were doing. It was silly. Like they're walking around with the horses on a leash. They did a couple things, and then sure enough, he jumped back and kicked back. And I didn't know anything about it. Well, I got back, and like 6 months later on PBS, they had a special about these Lipizzaner stallions. And I think they're bred in Austria. And it was freaking interesting. And basically, they're war horses. They're basically what those Alani people had. They're heavier boned, thicker horses that are bred for war. And the reason why they kick back is because when you got other people, people around you trying to stab you, that horse will kick back and knock people's heads off. Well, their dogs, these Alant dogs, would run up and, they'd grab and kill people, basically. You'd get shot by an arrow, the dog would finish off. They would defend the horses, and they were just an all-round badass war dog. So these people traveled all the way around. Well, back in that day when something like those dogs traveled, people hadn't seen dogs like that. They would want to breed to them. Anytime you see it, you go to a contest, a fight, or a bull match, or whatever, that dog that performed, you'd want to breed to him. And so, matter of fact, the Romans hired these people to go. There's a wall in England called Adrian's Wall. I think it's Adrian's Wall. And it's kind of like, if you're a Game of Thrones person, it's kind of like the wall that keeps the wildlings, the North, British, Irish, Scottish, those people were barbarians. They were rough. So they had this little wall, and they defended it to keep those wildlings, those people, from coming in to the civilized part. Well, that was Rome back then. That was all Roman Empire. So they built that wall. They hired these people because they were the best uh, cavalry. They were the best horsemen, and so they paid them whatever to hang out there and guard that. And so these Alants bred to the Roman pugnacious dogs and whatever the British dogs and you know that type of dog spawned all the dogs that we think of today: the Great Dane, the Rottweiler, the Cane Corso type dog, the Presa Canario type dog. Those are all Alants. The Boxer, all bull breeds, all pit bulls. And the reason why we know this is because in France they wrote these ancient writings about they had three different types of these Alants. One was like a greyhound that would run, chase down prey in open fields. Another one was a heavier dog that was like a butcher's dog. And then the other one was like a catch dog that you would lead in on a rope or a leash. And once the hounds cornered the boar, you let it go and it caught like an American Bulldog would. So also in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. On his ship, that son of a bitch had these freaking Alants. They were trained war dogs at the time, and these things were horrible. Well, there's etchings and paintings of these dogs, so we can see what they look like. Some of them look like heavy Great Dane or heavy greyhounds. Some of them look like a Doggo Argentina type dog, and some of them look just like a game bred pit bull. They were a little different in type, but they all kind of did the same thing. They were trained to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, Columbus, they were so vicious, these poor natives in North America, wherever they went, they thought they were in the West Indies, that those poor people came and welcomed the ships thinking, oh, who are these nice people in this floating house? Those people it did submit, got eaten. There's written accounts of all this.
Yeah.
They killed, at that time in that part of America, they had dogs, but they didn't have dogs much over 30, 40 pounds. Dogs were kept kind of like you see in some places like in Africa where it's a wild dog. It's not wild, it's a semi-wild dog. They just run around, scavenge, they hang out with people, but they're not kept for work or anything like that. They're kind of just a 30, 40 pound dog. So they're not seeing 60, 80 pound big vicious dogs that will attack people.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a historic account. At that time, dogs were not bred. For like I said, thousands of years, dogs were not bred. They had types. They had the Alant type. They had the butcher dog type. They had the bulldog, bull baiting dog type. They had a holdfast dog, which was a catch dog. They had all these different types. I don't know Cane Corso history, even though I'm Sicilian, I'm Italian.
Yeah.
My parent, I think I showed some to my dad, and he said, yeah, I think there was a lot of scary dogs. He said, I was scared of dogs when I was a kid. Everybody had dogs that was rich, and they weren't nice. They were mean dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But those were, how they talk about that was left over from the Colosseum, which you're probably right. But what happens is people never bred the way we do now. They never had a closed gene pool and governed a breed by the tail set or the ear set or the color of the eyes, or his top line is like this, or he doesn't have this angulation, or he needs to have more hair on his legs. He needs this kind of a coat. He needs this coat pattern. Nobody did any of that. People would have thought you were nuts. Like, what?
When and where did the concept of breeds start to happen?
It blew up during the Victorian period when people had more time. The first dog shows, like the Westminster Kennel Club dog show, if you watch that, you'll see the logo is a pointer.
Yeah.
Those shows, they're not like they were today. Those shows were field trials. These guys that were into hunting, they wanted a trial. And then they had like little shows, and women started wanting to, participate, and they had their little dogs, they had their fancy, just like we do today. They love their dogs. So, and back around that time, there was a lot of weird concepts with humans. called Eugenics.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I used to feel guilty. I thought, man, am I just like one of these psycho eugenics people? But I'm like that with the dogs, you know.
Mhm.
But I'm not, because if you believe in eugenics, you believe that some people, whatever, some breed, type, family, group of people are better than others, or they're genetically superior, and so the ones that aren't genetically superior should not be bred. And kind of in a way, that's how we are with dogs.
Yeah, we are.
But
Yeah.
but in the old days, it was not. It was uh, like I was going to tell you the story of in this bulldog book. As crazy as it sounds, it might be slightly true. This old guy, they say, came to a bull baiting match, and he had an old female that had puppies,
Mhm.
and he wanted to sell the puppies. So what he did, he set his female on a bull, and she latched onto the bull's nose, and he came up behind her with a sword and cut off her back leg, and she did not let go. And
Mhm.
then he cut off another leg, and she did not let go. And then he cut her in half, and she did not let go. So the point of this is that proved to those people that wanted to buy those dogs, this bitch is pure.
Mhm.
This is a pure bitch. It wasn't about how the dog looks. It wasn't about, oh, he's got a curly tail, therefore he's not a bulldog. It was purely this dog. When you say true to type, people mistake type as the way a dog looks.
Looks.
In a
Yeah.
working dog, it's not. The working dog, the first part of type is the way the dog works. If you get a pointer and you go out into the field and he doesn't point,
Mhm.
what is he? He's not a pointer.
Nah,
He's
that's
just
right.
he's just he's a cur. He's just a waste of time. If you
Out of Labrador.
care what your paperwork says, he's not a good dog. And the best example and most recent example of the way breeds were bred is the game bred pit bull terrier. A
Mhm.
game bred dog, that blood comes through the Alant. That has probably been around. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows how far back men fought dogs or had bloody contests, horrible, catch contests or bull baiting, all this stuff. It goes back way, way back there. So in a modern, the last 100 years, anybody that knows anything about game bred dogs, they'll breed dogs and keep the whole litter. There's a lot of pit bull breeders throughout history. They never sold a dog in their life. They bred anything they didn't want to keep. They either gave to somebody that wanted a dog or they put it down. And the ones they raised, they would test. They test the dog, whatever, 9 months, 12 months, whatever. They do whatever, a roll, whatever. They do their little test to determine if this is a bulldog, if he's game. If
Mhm.
he's not game, what do they call those dogs?
Curves. Yep.
They don't even register. They don't even believe it should carry the term pit bull. It's nothing. It's not a word. It's not. It's one thing that it's supposed to have. They don't give a shit what it looks like.
Right.
They don't care how color it is. If its tail is curly, it's got to be. It's a fighting dog. And those guys that fought the dogs, there's a whole big thing history of in England and coal miners in Ireland. The coal miners they mimic the fighting of humans too. All these terms, game, fighting in the box, scratch, and all that stuff came from this whole thing. They weren't asking their dogs to do anything that they weren't doing. They did bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
True.
so the dog, a cur, is a dog that doesn't make the cut. It may have a pedigree forever. It may be the right color. It may be beautiful, blah, blah, blah. It's not a pit bull if it's not game, if it's not a gladiator. If it curs, if it doesn't want to fight, it's not a pit. Well, it's the same thing in any breed of dog that was used for any kind of work. A Saluki that would not run down a hare in the desert was not a Saluki. Nobody would want that dog. Why would you want a dog? It's not, nobody had dogs for pleasure. You couldn't even keep your freaking kids fed. So you're not going to keep a dog for pleasure. It's just the way it was. And this wasn't like 50 years, 100 years, 400. We're talking thousands of years. This is what gave us the dogs we have. So now we have 200 years of a totally different thing. These show dogs, show people, this whole concept of purity is look. Purity is the physical cosmetic type. And we need to close the stud book and breed from this gene pool because we have to keep it pure. It's got to be pure. People act, like a dog. These dog breeds are a different species. They're all the same species. You can take a Great Dane and breed it to a Chihuahua. They'll have puppies. It's not like, even in horses, like if you breed a horse to a mule, or to a donkey, I should say, it'll produce a mule. A lot of those mules can't reproduce. And dogs aren't like that. They're not a different species. They're all the same species. They're all the same. You can call them different families of dogs, different types, and they can refine it down. I mean, if you got a pug or a Pekingese or something, whatever, those are just pleasure dogs, novelty dogs. Okay, so, cosmetics. But the problem is when you shut off a gene pool completely, especially if you have just a handful or 50 or 100 foundation dogs, you're going to run out. You're going to run out of genetics. I'm not saying, hey, you know what? Don't inbreed, don't line breed. You have to do that, or you don't have a breed because you can't predict. You're not setting traits. But if you start off a breed like American Bulldog, Cane Corso, all these new rare breeds that just started getting in the last 50, 75 years, whatever, 100 years, just started being bred, you're going to run out, especially the way we select dogs now, because Mother Nature selects breeding animals, wolves, on a very cutthroat, very cut and dry basis. Only the top physical specimens, mental specimens breed. The other ones don't breed. But with dogs, it's the whim of the people, and a lot of people don't know what the fuck they're saying.
Right. Yeah. That's something I wanted. That's something I want to talk to you about. Yeah.
Myself included. I'm still an idiot. I don't know everything. I started out really not knowing everything. And when I started out, I thought I knew it all. I thought, I've been around dogs. I've been around, because I was a dog nut my whole freaking life.
Mm-hmm.
From 12 years old, I could tell you every breed of dog in the book. I read all the books, what they do, what they were for, where they came from, all that silly shit. I hung out with dogs. I chased dogs. Anytime I had a dog, I was around him. I trained the dog. I did all this stuff, but that doesn't mean nothing. But I don't know what it is. Dog people, we're all the same. We think we know freaking everything. And it's like, I was thinking about comments. I'm like, oh, please don't read these stupid comments. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of young guys on the internet. I guess nobody knows who they are, and they make these stupid comments just to get a rise out of you. And it's the way of thinking is like so ingrained. We're so, my God, all this crap with Embark now too. It's like,
yeah, that's a top. Let me write that down because I'm loading up on questions here. I got a question right now though. Is a breed ever complete? And that question is going to lead me into another question. Is it ever complete?
No. You know why? No, it's never complete because Mother Nature, she's never complete. I mean, if you put dogs on an island, you say you put 1,000 dogs on an island and come back 200 years later, they may still be there. They may be dead. If you put 5 dogs on an island, they may be dead because they can only breed with themselves for so long. And if the stock that you started with wasn't hardy and healthy and smart enough to fend for themselves, it's not going to live. So what makes us think John D. Johnson and Alan Scott can pull 50 dogs out of the woods, and then along the next 25 years, everybody does these secret breedings to try to correct stuff and make a better dog secretly, because we can't admit that these dogs aren't pure, whatever the fuck pure means. I'm sorry, I hate to cuss.
No, that's you're all right. Yeah.
I hate the whatever we think the pure is. The goal of breeding dogs shouldn't be purity, because there's no such thing as purity. What the fuck? What's that mean, purity?
Right.
Spaceship came here and dropped off a dog that is unrelated to anything else and it's pure, it's perfect. No, everything's just a moving. Mother Nature does the same thing with every animal. They sink or swim, and they adapt or they don't adapt. And they don't adapt, they become extinct. If they do adapt, they get stronger.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the thing. It's always a wolf pack. Back in the day, would the males would get run off. They'd have to fight and they'd run off. And whatever they did, run off, they'd find another pack if they're dominant enough and smart enough, and they'll breed and start their own pack. Same with the lions. Same with the, different with the tigers. Tigers don't have a pack, but all that is like, might as well call it breeding criteria. So it goes to show you, if you don't do that with dogs. Now, what's happened to dogs over the last 200 years is people lie. People, and some of them are doing it out of the need. Like, we were going to do a show on this, and I told you, I don't want to do it.
That was my next question.
I kind of got onto this whole thing. I got into American Bulldogs because when I was a kid, my breed was Doberman.
Yeah.
I wasn't kind of a Doberman kid. I was a freaking nut.
So Vito, let me cut you off. I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, but okay. Yeah, you had came to me about doing a show. We couldn't make that show happen. We wanted to do it on another platform about the Doberman. And you the first. Now the topic came up recently about the Doberman needing the outcross. Me and you been already talked about it, but while you go into this, why the Doberman needs an outcross, would you explain to me from Vito's mind, that dog breeder's mind, why it needs an outcross, and how would you do it?
Well, let me explain what's up with the Doberman, because
okay,
30 years ago, 1987, I think, I got a dog. I got a Doberman. I'd had Dobermans before. Like I said, I used to go to specialty shows. In the 70s and 80s, Dobermans were like hot. Like, the wealthy women would breed them. They bred them thinking they're like Arabian horses, And then, but in the 70s, the Doberman was a rough ass dog. It had thick neck. They were big, and they were not to be fun. They were, they had a bad reputation, scare reputation, because they were a dog bred for protection work. And they're crazy athletic. And then by the 80s, a lot of wealthy people, because the show crowd was humongous. I mean, millionaires, people would send their dog all over the place to collect as many points. And when I kind of got out of it, there was a dog called Kryptonite. He had thyroid problems. He grew tons of this cardiomyopathy. So I got a Doberman anyway, because I thought, that's not going to happen to my dog. So I got the dog, and it didn't. My dog didn't live long enough to get cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy is the big thing in Doberman. What it is the heart muscle keeps growing and growing till the chambers are so small the dog can't pump its own blood, and you don't notice it because it happens fast. It can happen up, 4 or 5 years. Like I used to date this girl a million years ago, and she freaking took her Doberman. We met because she liked Dobermans. I liked Dobermans. She had a Doberman. She was running in the woods, and it fell over dead. She thought, what the hell is going on? She walked up to it. It was dead, completely dead. Just fell over. Mm-hmm. And she was dragging it out of the woods, crying. And I mean, she gets it. And I'm like, She goes, I gotta pay. I gotta find out if somebody poisoned my dog. And she found out I had cardiomyopathy. I'm like, yeah, cardiomyopathy and von Willebrand's disease, which is like hemophilia, is a big thing. And this dog, Kryptonite, through that stuff. He was the #1 Doberman working dog history. He had more points than any other dog. And he also was like on thyroid medication and all this shit. So I get this dog. I get a dog, Bravo. He is from the #6 dog in the country. This dog, Rainbow Running Bear. And he looked like a 70s Doberman. He was oversized, big, thick neck. He didn't have the attitude, but he looked physically like him. And I thought, I got to get a dog from him. I paid $1,500. That was like $4,500 now. And get this dog. He was a little bit of a disappointment, but he was a great dog. I trained him within, by the time he was 2 years old, I had him trained in AKC obedience. He had acquired a CD, a companion dog degree. I'm throwing the tennis ball down the hallway of my house, and he comes up and he's peeing, like he's dripping pee. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, yeah, so what are you doing? You've been potty trained forever. And so he kept, that would always happen. And then I noticed he would dig a hole when it rained and start drinking the mud water like crazy. What the hell? So I took him to the vet. The first vet's like, oh, he's just, give him this antihistamine. He's got submissive urinating. I said, no, this isn't submissive urinating. He doesn't even know he's peeing. Then I took him to several vets, paid a shit ton of money. Finally, this one Doberman lady, she was a vet, Cherry Hills Veterinary Clinic. Took him there. She did all these crazy tests. Calls me back, won't talk to me on the phone, tells me to come back to the office, bring Bravo. And so I bring him there, and she's telling me we got to put him down. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got a 2-year-old dog. He's healthy. He's beautiful. He pees a little bit. He goes, no, he has diabetes insipidus. He goes, there's medicine we can give you. It's $350.
Hey, Vito.
A lot of money.
Hey, Vito, let me stop you for a minute. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
So this is what I want. I think somebody might have text you or something, then the volume went crazy. Can I kick you out and you hit the link and come back in?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. One second, I'm gonna kick you out. All right, guys. I was having trouble hearing him, so let me let him come back in. And we're gonna get some questions in too. Yes, sir. Salute Angelo, Santiago, Young Reddy, Javier, Clifton, Lucky Mills. There we go.
Better?
Okay, let's try it now.
Is that better?
Yeah, that'll work. Yes, sir. Okay. All right.
So anyway, I have this Doberman. He's diagnosed with diabetes insipidus. The medicine's $350. I bought the medicine like an idiot, because $350 was an apartment back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so it didn't work. So I still was like, there's no fucking way I'm gonna put my 2-year-old dog down. He's fine. But he got worse. You had to watch him. You couldn't get him anywhere around a water bowl. You had to limit it because he would drink so much, his stomach would distend. And then finally one day, I kept him at the back of my kitchen because he couldn't control his pee, and he peed on these beach towels. And we just cleaned the beach towels, and it looked like mustard. It was that deep orange color. So I called the lady, and she goes, "Oh my God, he's still alive." I'm like, "Alive? Well, he's fine." She goes, "No, you don't understand. He's going to go through kidney failure. He's going through kidney failure. You got to put him down because he's going to suffer." So we took him in. It was horrible. Can you imagine putting a 3-year-old dog down after you trained him? He's just a young dog.
Right.
So that fucked me up. I'm seriously, it messed me up, and I thought I never want another AKC freaking breed again. So that's how I got into American Bulldogs. I started looking into. I knew about American Bulldogs. I didn't think my ex-wife could handle one, and then I just got one anyway. Then I got several. Anyway, so I think it's because Doberman's a recent breed. In the 1800s, there was a guy called Herr Louis Doberman, who was a dog catcher, a tax collector
Yeah.
in Germany. He had a kennel supposedly of Rottweilers. He wanted a dog to go with him when he was collecting taxes. And so he bred the local shepherd, some local shepherd, to a Rottweiler, let's say maybe German Pincer, where Pincer means terrier, and some people say a German short-haired pointer. Later, they said they put Greyhound, Black Greyhound, and a Black Great Dane. I think that's what. So anyway, they took off. They got really popular pretty quick, and the foundation gene pool is not big. You know, there wasn't a ton of mixing to make that population. So Dobermans are pretty, I hate to say they're inbred, because if you read a pedigree, you won't see in what we think of as inbreeding. But when the gene pool is that small, there's not enough genetic diversity. And I imagine there's probably people that put Great Dane and different things in it to make them a little bit bigger, but evidently not enough. So these weird diseases pop up and they get ingrained in the breed. So I mean, I talked to you one time about we should maybe do a show about how you would reconstruct that breed.
We need to do that. I would love to do a show on reconstructing the Doberman.
Yeah, I just felt like maybe I'm not passionate about it anymore. There probably should be somebody that's really passionate about it. And I had different ideas, but of course, I talked to different people about it. Like, oh no, I wouldn't do that. But I mean, whatever you use, the thing is, you need a bigger population, a bigger gene pool that is clean, and that's what the problem with these newer breeds, that they come from a small base, and that people just pull out of the woods or whatever you want to call it and say, hey, this is an American Bulldog. Hey, this is a Cane Corso. No, it's not a perfected breed. Nobody did the work. You got a cosmetic look, but you didn't create, like, great breeds that are created are like border collies, like collie type dogs. What?
So you saying they did more of the phenotypical work mostly?
That it was governed by the work, and they, like, take these hog hunter friends of mine. I noticed these guys they're really into hunting. I mean, they use dogs for bay dogs. They got coyote people that want to hunt coyotes. They're not selling dogs. Their whole idea is, I need a dog to do this work because I like hunting, and I want a dog to perform. So, like these black-mouthed fur dogs, I noticed a lot of people use those as bay dogs. And I've been on some hunts, and this is a freaking bulletproof dog. Like, these are great, hardy, physically awesome freaking dogs, and they work. They're functional. They're nearly bulletproof. And I go with these people. I'm like, is that not fair? And they'll say, well, 3/4 black-mouthed fur. I got a little fox in there. Got a little this and a little that. They don't care, because it's not governed by, I'm going to sell puppies and I want to have the paperwork right. It's governed by this dog act and work the way I need him to do. And that dogs that are developed like that, there's a couple breeds that are natural.
Hey, Vito, they saying they barely can't hear you now. Saying you sound muffled. Let's try. I'm gonna kick you out one more time. Let's see if we can fix that right quick. Yeah, that's why I asked y'all earlier. I was like, sometimes, man, these people be getting texts and it does something to the phones. Okay, let's see now.
Is that better?
It's still a little muffled. How about it, y'all?
Is it maybe by earbuds?
It might be your ear. Yeah, take your earbud off. Yeah. Disconnect them. Let's see what happens.
Is that better?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Perfect. We in there now. Can you hear me though?
I hear you great.
Okay. All right.
So I was saying these breeds that are just bulletproof, border collies, American Pit Bull Terrier, the fighting Pit Bull Terriers. I mean, you can't kill one with the ball peen hammer. I mean, they are just hardy as shit, and and it's not because they're inbred or they're this or that. It's because they've been tested. Now I know, like these Brazilian bulls, they're not a working dog. There is no test, but there is a type that they're going for. The breed, they want a dog that's easy, that anybody can handle, that's not super dog aggressive, not crazy high drive, that's hard to handle, but they want a massive monster, a dog that is physically arresting. So if you have those criteria, you can produce a good dog from that. It doesn't have to just be working dogs. You could, the thing is, you need competition. And that's another thing. Years ago, I was like, oh shit, there was a dog. I hated this dog. Like I should say I hate him. I used to breed, I created my own breed of alternative bulldog called an Alu bull. And it was like an oldie type bulldog. And my concept was I was going to use I used Staffy Bull, American Bulldog, and English Bulldog. And I wanted to produce a little 50-pound alternative to an English Bulldog, but it's healthy like a Staffy Bull, tight. And I did. I produced them, but I just didn't have a lot of passion for them. But anyway, they required me to experiment. I took one of my American Bulldog females, bred her to an English Bulldog. I took a little female that I bought that had Staffy Bull and English in her and bred her to an English Bulldog. So I did a couple English Bulldog crosses. And I just couldn't live with myself. Those dogs, those English Bulldogs, I know they're cute, they're awesome, they're 25% of probably what our American Bulldogs are, but I just had bad experiences. I had a female I produced from my dog Reba. I bred Reba as an American Bulldog twice, never had issues. And I had this little female, I called her Mona Lisa, and she was awesome. She was just awesome. I kept her, and I had her sister, Earth Angel. Well, at 4 months, I go out, and I'm like, what the hell? It's August, and she's coughing, like she's got a cold. So I thought, well, that's weird. And you could just tell she just wasn't feeling good. So I take her to the vet, and the vet listens to her heart and says, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but she's got a bad heart valve, really bad. And I said, oh shit. And he goes, we have to put her down. I had to put her down that day. And I really loved her. She was a sweet little dog. Well, that fucked me up too. There's a few things that happen when you're a breeder several times that makes your blood run cold. If you do this long enough, you'll know. Yeah. A puppy drowns in a bucket of water. You come home and something horrible happens, That shit happens. Well, that was one of the times, and I was like, oh, fuck. So then I bred another one. I had Iantropia. Some people don't give a shit. I don't like selling a dog to a family and then they got to spend money to fix this effed up dog. Then I had one that had a stomach issue, and it's like English Bulldog is a mutated little freak. They're the most unnatural breed on earth. So I can't stand English Bulldog genetics. And matter of fact, in my American Bulldogs, because American Bulldogs are about, the Johnson type are about at least 25%. Some are a lot more because there's been other people putting oldie and English Bulldog in there. They make a cool looking dog. I admit it. They're sweet, cool looking, but it's not worth it. Like American Bulldogs, I spent 15 freaking years trying to fix the breathing issues, and like I said, I had a dog that I probably tell the story a million times. I sold to these people. He was from this dog, Mufasa, bred to my female. Beautiful freaking dog. Two little boys. It was their buddy, and he overheated and died. They came home and found him dead. And that's what kind of set me off the freaky, big, thick, bully dogs. People that talk about my dogs like, oh, I like old time Braveheart. I like the old school Braveheart. Well, that was because I bred those big freaky dogs, and not all of them were terrible, but they were not what the breed says they're supposed to be. A dog that could run, jump, catch a hog in the heat, be a working dog. which I didn't, at the first, I didn't even care about that. I wasn't sent out to breed a hog dog. I would have been happy with just a freaky dog. But people, then I see all these people, and every year it's no different now. I get people that contact me. Oh, I saw you wrote an article about breathing in our dog. We took him for a walk and put him in the air conditioning. Then we went to the store and came back and he was dead. Do you think he overheated? And I said, well, what was he doing when he left? He goes, yeah, he was breathing bad. I said, what? Like what? She goes, well, kind of wispy and rattled. Like, yeah, he overheated. But he was in air conditioning. It's like, well, once a dog hits a certain temperature, they can't cool their body, especially if they got a 1-inch muzzle and they weigh 110 pounds. They're not made to cool down. Right. So anyway, that started me on that. And so all these new breeds, to me, my thinking is they need to keep the stud book open. They need to have rules, but they need to allow outcrossing, and that is what brings us to this discussion is the Brazilian bulls in Brazil. I'm trying to study and figure out how, because there's a lot of them that are just freaky ass dogs. I mean, Shake is a big, he's 24 inches at the shoulder. I've never weighed him. I've measured him, but I have never weighed him. But they tell me he's 145, 150. And he is thick. Like, I don't know. I can't really judge by looking at him, but he is thick. And all of them some of them are just crazy thick. And they're like a freaking monster. They look like there's something about them. When you get close to one, it's kind of like, I imagine like if you're next to a lion or something, because it's like physically they're kind of arresting. They're so extremely thick, but they're like a big dummy. They're like a big golden retriever sweetheart. They don't have a lot of, have any dog aggression I found so far that I've seen. They're not, and they're not quite as destructive. They're not as high prey drive. They're just easier. And I think XL bullies, I've never owned a regular XL bully, but XL bullies and American bullies are supposed to be like that too.
Let me ask you something right quick while you're on the Brazilian bull. What is the goal for it? Is it to be a breed? And if that happens, at what point do they close the stud book up on it?
Well, that's $100,000 question. Who knows? I don't have a lot of faith that they're not going to close the stud book. I talked to the main the mother registry is in Brazil, and it's IBC, International Brazilian Kennel Club, I guess. I don't know. The lady that runs it, owns it, is Beatrice at Sunshine Bulls. I met her. I just went to the ABKC Nationals, and they flew in from Brazil.
I've heard of her. Yeah, I
met her and her husband. She's awesome. She's really sweet. She's real nice. And matter of fact, I have to WhatsApp them because I don't know why you can't text. It's a different, I don't know what it is, but you got to go through WhatsApp. So I'm WhatsApping her. I'm trying to figure that shit out. And finally she answered me back because I thought, well, I need to know this if I'm going to do this thing with you. I need to kind of know what the rules are. And the rules, from what I understand, is in Brazil, those breeders, they'll breed an American Bulldog to a Brazilian Bull. And that's called an F1. So an F1, first generation cross, can be registered. But the rule is you can only use 4 breeds. Now, the 4 breeds that make it up: the American Bully, the XL Pit Bull type dog, the American Bulldog, and the Old English Bulldog. I don't think they have a ton of Old English Bulldog in them, but they have a little bit probably in there. And so it's just those 4 breeds. So if you outcross, you can only do that. You can't keep outcrossing. They can't be less than 50%, and they can't be an American Bully. They have to be a Brazilian dog. So it always has to be at least 50% Brazilian. And this isn't unwarranted or outrageous or crazy talk. This has happened before. After World War II, the English Mastiff was about extinct. They say in England there was only a handful of them, and they were old. They were wealthy. Only wealthy people had them. During the war, World War II, they killed a lot of dogs because things were tough. People couldn't feed a big 200, 170-pound English Mastiff. So what they did after the war, they took whatever they could find in Europe, which wasn't many, and there was people in the United States that still had some English, but it wasn't enough to expand. So what they did is they used the Alpine Mastiff, the St. Bernard. They used a Great Dane. They used Bull Mastiff, and there's even talk that they used Newfie. So they rebuilt the breed. And so if you look at an English Mastiff today, anybody look at that dog and tell me it looks like a St. Bernard, or it looks like a Great Dane mix, or it looks like, it looks like an English Mastiff, whatever they decided the English Mastiff should look. Historically, it's close. It's a recreated breed. And, Cane Corso, Press Canario, American Bulldogs, a lot of breeds, they're recreated because there wasn't organized registries, and there weren't tons of these probably dogs. They just recreated from stuff. I bet you, I don't know Cane Corso history, but I bet you I know Italians. My parents are from Sicily, and there are wealthy people there, but it's, there's not enough wealthy people there to keep a kennel. Those dogs were kept as working dogs. So a lot of the original Cane Corsos, probably that they started breeding, they were true Cane Corsos, but they may have had marimba in them or whatever, because they were used to guard their livestock.
Yeah, they were farm dogs. Them farmers put whatever dogs in there that needed to work. You know what I mean? So it has a livestock garden dog in there too. So
so when they started getting popular in the United States, there's a story. I don't know if it's the guy that I can't even remember. I just remember this story I had heard years and years ago, that some American guy, Italian guy, was in Sicily for a wedding, and he was driving down a country road, and he looked up, and there was this old guy with these two big ass dogs moving these sheep. So this guy's in a tuxedo. He jumps over the fence and runs up to this old man. He goes, "Hey man, where can I get these dogs? What are they?" And he says, "They're Cane Corsos." And he said, "Well, where can I get them?" And he looked at the guy and said, "Well, do you have sheep?" And he goes, "No." He said, "Well, why would you want one? What the fuck do you want one?" And that's an Italian. That's my family. That's how I would see. It's a practical thing. Nowadays there's people that have kennels and the way we think, but in the old days, if you had a dog, and it's the same way in the United States, nobody was breeding a certain breed just to breed it and have fun with it. They didn't have time, man. They had to hunt for food. They had a farm. They had to work, whatever. Even when the Industrial Revolution came, they had to work in a factory or somewhere. It was rough. They pleasure horses and pleasure dogs. That was something only super, super rich people could do. So all these breeds, the lunch pail dogs, the dogs that were working dogs, they weren't bred all snooty and weird. Oh, my dog's pure. Yeah, purity was what it could do, and if it could do the job that breed or that type needed to do. Breeds have been rebuilt and brought, redone. And if you look at the healthy breeds, it was a broad function need for that dog that created it. And that huge gene pool enabled people for the cream to rise to the top and the shit to get flushed down the toilet. It's basically what it is. So the concept of having an open registry, it scares a lot of people. They think, "Oh, these dogs are going to be mutts." No, because what's going to happen, you got to have faith in competition. What's going to happen is when somebody produces a superior dog, people are going to breed to that. And if you produce a skanky dog, nobody's going to breed to it. And that's just the way it works. That's what it need. You need competition to expand the gene pool for so many years. I think, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I would think minimum 50 years, maybe after so many years, you need to set different rules. Like the Tosa in Japan. They had fighting dogs in Japan. The Akita type dog was a fighting dog, was the samurai's dog. They fought dogs. It was very ceremonial. They had it for years. Well, Japan used to have a closed port. And when they opened their ports to foreign goods, then all of a sudden they could get any breed of dog they wanted. So they opened it up and they made a rule that you can breed anything you want, anything. They don't care. And once it's only 1/8 outcross, once it's 7/8 original Tosa blood, then it's a registered purebred, or it's considered purebred. And they, of course, I guess they fought them. I guess it's like a sumo wrestling match or something. I don't know. I don't really know a whole lot about the breed, but that's kind of how they did it. And that's how they do hunting dogs. To this day, even, there's these registries that do field trial stuff. You're allowed to have 1/8 something different. And American Bulldogs, the NKC, is the original main registry. It's the one I use. A lot of people think, oh yeah, it was created for American Bulldogs. No, they were created for gun dogs, bird dogs, hunting dogs. And so they always had up until recently, because so many people bitched so stupidly about they called it the 7/8 rule. So you could outcross and document it. And once it gets to 1/8 outcross, 7/8 American traditional pedigree dogs, it's registerable as a purebred dog, as a purebred American Bulldog. Well, they did away with it. Too many people bitched, like, that's the problem. That's not the problem in the breed. The problem is you got people breeding shit dogs. That's a problem. It's dogs you considered pure, they're pure as nothing, but they're just pure shit, and people breeding pure shit dogs. So, we got boxers that die at 6 years old of cancer.
Yeah. We
have Dobermans. A good friend of mine, she's a vet. I do work for her. She had a dog, Hillary, this Doberman. She likes Dobermans. She had to put her down at 7. She had all kinds of things. She had all these tests done. This dog was on all kinds of medicine and all kinds of stuff. My sister's best friend, about the same time, she's like, yeah, they had to put their Doberman down. She told me they spent $25,000 on that dog, and they had to put him down at 6 or 7 years of age.
Damn, that's crazy.
Well, if this is happening a lot, people, what? That's just crazy. You should not breed a dog that's got to suffer or die. If humans were doing that, if a family, a royal family, was keep breeding your cousin, and you keeping everything in the family, and you're coming out with crooked eyes, and you're dying at 20 years of age, people might think, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. But with dogs, they're like, oh, that's the way it is. Like the English Bulldogs,
Right. No discipline at all. Not trying to breed like Mother Nature, right? But
right.
Vito, let me get into something else. This let's get in trouble segment.
Okay.
I've been having a lot of those segments lately. But anyway, I want to talk about the American Pit Bull Terrier, since you was talking about that. Now, I know it's a lot of guys, there's some hardcore guys in that American Pit Bull Terrier that have some reservations about it being used in other breeds, especially with the bullies, and then they start pointing fingers and everything. But the American Pit Bull Terrier, since you're seeing it being reached in the shepherds, police dogs, reaching other breeds to bring in the intensity breeds don't no longer have. Is this going to be the go-to dog for outcross?
There's some book out there that says the Bulldog. They say the Bulldog. The Bulldog can be bred to other breeds to improve it, but no other breed can be bred to a Bulldog. Well, what they're talking about is a game-bred freaking pit bull. There is not a dog that can be bred to them, a real game-bred dog. to improve their gameness, to improve their health, to improve their function. It's just the way it is. And it didn't come from Lewis Carver. It didn't come from the last 100 years. This is from that Alant type gladiator dog that has been bred for thousands of years. I think, we don't think that way, but every breed of dog alive today, it has a family tree. It didn't pop up, it didn't just show up. So every shitty piece of crap dog, all the Great Danes and Boxers and Bulldogs and Pit Bulls and every Mastiff type dog, whatever, it all went back to a functioning frickin' dog, a dog that some of those dogs were not fed. They had to feed themselves. They had to go catch their own rabbit. They had to go kill or scavenge, whatever, and go for hunts and, do all this stuff. So we're talking hardy miracles. Humans are like that too. You're not the result of your mom and dad. You're the result of thousands, hundreds and thousands of years of some lucky ass motherfuckers. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
To think about people, you're the product of a human living through disease, famine, natural disasters, cold, horrible, evil governments. You're here because they are genetically successful. And what is genetically successful? I mean, it doesn't mean we're Superman. It just means we're lucky and we're hardy.
Yeah.
And so all dogs came from that. And the last 200 years, all these well-meaning breeders like myself, we're failing. We're failing the dogs because, back in the day, there was probably dogs that ran free or whatever and they bred to whatever they wanted to, and that survived or whatever. But nowadays it's purely our decision. So we have to think like Mother Nature, and we have to change our way of thinking, because what is going to happen in 200 years? I mean, I won't be around to see it, but even in 100 years, if Dobermans and all these AKC dogs have these weird ass diseases and problems, and that's one thing I've noticed. I'm like a junkie for anything that has to do with American Bullies or Brazilian Bulls, and so it's like a different planet.
Yeah, but you really have got behind this Brazilian Bull. You really like that breed and everything.
When I get into something, I have a attention deficit, or so I don't know. I have something on the spectrum or something. I don't know. Both my brothers are the same way. When we get into something, it's like an obsession. My older brother is into sports, and like at one time he could tell you, I joke with him. I'd say like it had to do with hockey. He's like, oh yeah, he knows when that guy was married, divorced, how many kids he has. It's just obsessed and weird. My little brother is weird about history and other very strange things, but I'm the dog wacko. And so I never got into XL Bullies and American Bullies. I've seen them, I looked at them, I didn't, but these Brazilian dogs, I don't know if it's because it just clicks, the muscle, the outrageous proportions, I don't know what it is, but so I'm into it. I put earbuds on and I listen to podcasts and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like I said, it's a different world. I went to the ABKC Nationals, and I'd been to other ABKC shows. I'd never been to Nationals, and it is bizarre. It is bizarre. It is weird, man. It is like half trade show, half hip hop concert, and Westminster Kennel Club dog show. Like they don't. It was in Savannah, Georgia. In this huge convention center, brand new, first class, like the 2 big rings, and they have black carpeting. They have black curtains everywhere. They got giant TV screens that must be 100 feet across with stuff, huge banners. Everybody has a booth, and some of the booths they got it's like a trade show. Mm-hmm. It's really bizarre. It's weird. It's kind of cool. And in other ways, it's like I feel like I just landed in a different planet. Like I even like the dogs, I look at the dogs, I'm like, what in the hell is I hate to make fun of anybody's dog. It's just, I don't get it. And there's a whole different culture, a whole different idea. Like I go to dog shows to, I was a dog show judge. I judge a lot of shows. Dog shows are kind of like, it's a subjective beauty contest. So it's, it's got its weirdness, but this is a different level of weird. This is like, I don't know. I just don't get it, but it's awesome. It's really weird. Like I was there all day. There was like 400 freaking dogs there. There's people everywhere. They do these weird shit where they have this special stage set up, and all these guys get up there with their dogs, and they do this thing called the stack off. Stack off. I don't want to hear people saying I said something else, but stack off, and they put their dogs like lined up shoulder to shoulder next to each other. And I don't know, somebody judges them and gives them trophies. It's like a frontal stack off side by side. And it's packed. These people are like packed. And they got all these big bulldogs inches from each other, nose to butthole, shoulder to shoulder. None of them fight. None of them react. They're all just chill. They're like, hey, what's up, man? The only time I heard anybody all weekend, any dog firing up, was a little Frenchie. I looked over, there's a fight. No, it's a little Frenchie. And these big 100-pound dogs, 140-pound dogs, freaky looking monsters. The people are like, I guess they used to always talk shit, the game guys or the guys that associate or think more of game stuff. They don't like the American Bullies. It's not a pit bull. Nobody's saying it's a pit bull, dude. It's not a pit bull. It has cropped ears. It probably has very little pit bull in it. They're just a cool dog, just, a companion dog. And if you're breeding them healthy and you're working on, which there are a lot of people, they're very passionate about the dogs. They love their dogs. You can see it, but all these podcasts, a lot of it is, how to deal with allergies, how to do this, how to feed your dog. Oh my God. They feed them supplements. They feed them raw. You got to grind your meat. You got to do all this shit.
Don't get me started, man.
It's cool.
And then they die before your eyes. They die right before your eyes at 4 years old.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on people's podcasts and they ask me, what do you feed? Oh shit, don't talk to me about food.
Yeah, I don't even. That's a subject I don't no longer even like. It's a waste of time.
I stopped. I did feed a little raw. I used to have tons of chickens. I used to feed tons and tons of raw egg, and I'd buy chicken leg quarters and all that stuff. But it caused too many fights with my dogs. I'd have to separate them. And
the raw meat,
not the eggs, but the chicken leg quarters did.
Oh yeah, the raw meat do something different. Yeah,
and it's just nasty. Like your refrigerator's full of salmonella all the time. It was just for a single guy that's busy. It's tough. And then I started thinking, you know what? If my dogs have to be supplemented, am I really breeding healthy dogs? And then I read something, an old pit bull guy said, if my dogs can't survive on cheap kibble, then they're not that hardy. And I thought, I don't want to feed cheap kibble, but that's what I feed. I feed ridiculously cheap dog food. It's pretty good dog food. It's more of like a hunter's blend. And I get it directly from the factory. There's a factory here in Mexico, Missouri. It's about 2 hours from my house. I go there every couple of weeks and load my van up with food.
Well, Vito, in Missouri, it's a lot of dog breeders. So I go over there to Wheaton, Missouri, and get dog foods. And there's so many meals and things. I deliver to a lot of plants.
I bet I get mine cheaper. I bet I get the dog food cheap if I told you.
The stuff they paying $65, $70 for, I'm paying $35 per bag.
I got your beat.
Are you good?
I get it wholesale for $22 a bag for a 50-pound bag. And I'm telling you, it's not terrible food.
Yeah.
Like my dog's stool is tight and it's not a loose.
So you're getting the no label bags, the white bags. Is that what stuff you get?
It's right. It says something on it. I forget what I think it just says sports mix. I got turned on by these hog hunters. I used to buy it with them. One guy would drive out with a trailer and get like 3 pallets, and I'd buy it. I think they sold to me for like $25, which I was happy to do. That's fucking crazy cheap.
Yeah.
And these Brazilian 2 females I feed them the same thing. And I haven't seen any issues at all.
Oh, so that's a good question. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. So, not a bunch, because I know we got to go, but we probably gonna have to go through them quickly. But with the Brazilian bull, any allergy issues?
I've not experienced anything, and I haven't really talked to anybody, but I guess maybe in American Bullies there's issues, because I see a lot of podcasters that there's one guy in particular, he does a lot of constant, it seems like it's always new remedies for skin issues. So I don't know. But I'm telling you, if you're breeding dogs that have a lot of English Bulldog in them, you're going to get skin issues, eye issues, breathing issues, joint issues, stomach issues. The English Bulldog is a kiss of death for health.
Right. Javier is asking what ingredients in my dog food I'm running. I get the Nutrisource and I get the Toughies is what I feed.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what? I should know, but I don't even. I read it when I first started.
Don't give me the line. Yeah.
If it's not broke, I don't need to fix it. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Right. There was people in there asking about the workability of the Brazilian bull. I know you said it had the makeup to do it. I don't know. Is that what it's for?
I don't think so.
Both?
I shouldn't say broadly, but from my experience, I've been to Araya's house. I've been around some here and there, so I'm not an expert or anything, and Araya will even say, these aren't working dogs. We don't breed for high prey drive and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're not bred for that. But there's a guy I just started talking to. He's in Paraguay. And Paraguay, I always forgot where that was, but it's right next to Brazil. And he's a longtime breeder, Rene Soto, real nice guy. I just started talking to him. And he's been in the breed since the very beginning when they called them pit monsters. And I just started looking at his pedigrees. His dogs, they look like they could do anything, really. But they're a little different. He stuck to the Camelot, Gargoyle, those big XL type dogs. And so his dogs are really structured well, and they're like crazy muscle. Like they're bulky, but not crazy bulky, but just, I'm talking the most defined muscle you're going to see. And they have a more of a terrier pit bully muzzle to them, but they have big heads. They're big dogs, but not 150 pounds. The Brazilian bulls, they have 2 types, or two classifications. They call one a standard and one an extreme. Klaus and Shake, those dogs are extreme. The other ones are just a little bit smaller and not quite as outrageously, their bone isn't quite as thick. But this guy's dogs are just crazy. I mean, ripped. They can do hang time, and he does that wall climb competitions and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, they're big. They're like 100. They're like, females are 95 or 85 to males can go up to 120, 110. And I don't know, like I said, I've not weighed any dogs, and I just know human nature, in this kind of a thing. I will say a lot of Brazilian bulls, to me, they keep them kind of fat. And, and American bullies are the same way. They're just pig fat, and people don't even see it. They don't, because they are going by the dog looks better, heavy, which
right.
Maybe, they probably take better pictures. They probably do look better in a picture, but like, just me personally, I saw a picture of Shake, and I'm like, wow, he's got a waistline, and he looked awesome. Like, he looked sucked up. He still had a lot of muscle. He's a big ass dog. He's 24 inches tall, which is a giant. That's at the top of I think it's an inch or two over the XL standard, but it's right at the top of the Brazilian standard.
Mm-hmm.
But Area's like, oh, he looked terrible. He was real skinny. We just got him. We just brought him over from Brazil, and I guess he wasn't eating as well. I didn't have him up to snuff. And I'm looking at him thinking, he's not skinny. I don't see any of his ribs. He's like 145 pounds, I think now.
Right.
Living in China with somebody with a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, I saw that.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Hey, or I need a manager. I need a manager. Come on now, help me, sister. But but let me ask you this, Vito. And before we ask that, hey, everybody, hit the like button. There's a lot of y'all in here. Vito got them packed out in here today. Hit the like button. Share it on your Facebook. Give us some help. I want to ask you this before we get into a barrage of questions and get you out of here. What are the telltale signs that your gene pool is too small?
That's the problem. Like when the breeds start out, they're scatterbred. They're, when I started in American Bulldogs, I didn't start in the 70s. Supposedly the first ones were 1976. But, there's probably a tiny, tiny number. They didn't really start taking off till the later 80s into the 90s. The 90s was probably the biggest thing. And I thought, oh, this is an established breed. It's been around for hundreds of years. They just weren't registered. No. There's a smidgen of truth throughout that. But I realized now, especially looking back, that I was probably breeding. Like I had a dog, a Johnson dog. It was 7/8 Johnson, 1/8 Painter. And he was 29 inches at the shoulder. And I used to be embarrassed that he was 29 inches. I used to say, no, he's 28 3/4. And he was 148 pounds. And that's not exaggerated, not even an ounce. He was 148 pounds. That was where he was in pretty good shape. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, I bet if I knew that dog's true pedigree, he was a high percentage of St. Bernard. He didn't look like a St. Bernard because he was mainly white and he had short hair, but he was freaking huge. And and the other, like I had a breeding, I was set by this breeding. There was a dog early on that was real famous. Everybody wanted a dog like him. He was from a famous combination called Gator Doozy. They were 3/4 Johnson, 1/4 this Painter dog, this Painter stuff. And dogs out of that breeding had huge heads. They were 25, 26, 27 inches tall, 125 to 130 pounds. And this dog Tyson was like 135 pound, huge head. It looked like a lion when he ran. He had real thick bone, red and white, real flashy, beautiful, awesome, cool dog. So, I bred to him. At first, he was being bred to the standard type, and then some other guy bought him, and now all the bullier type people were breeding to him. And that's kind of my foundation bitch came off of him. So anyway, I bred to him. I had this female called Casino Queen, awesome, fucking awesome dog. And I had my other dog, my foundation dog's brother I bought, a dog called Stash. And I thought, man, I got the game done. I'm going to produce nothing but a whole litter of these frickin' Tyson dogs, right? Because I'm breeding half brother, half sister. She's 7/8 Johnson. He's 7/8 Johnson. It's kind of, man. So I bred them. She had 12 frickin' puppies. I'm telling you, I had a miniature English Bulldog in there. I had a 140-pound dog that looked like a St. Bernard, and an English Bulldog had a baby. I had 2 or 3 females that looked like just straight up standard white standard dogs with a long muzzle. I had a dog that looked like kind of like a boxer. I had like everything in this litter. It didn't make sense. I'm like, how the hell did I was scratching my head. I thought, what a joke. I thought for sure I was going to get, I'd been breeding a little bit before then. That wasn't my first litter. That was like my 5th. And so here I bred half brother, half sister. Well, Tyson never really produced himself because he was 3/4 dog. He had a quarter outcross. So he was the result of hybrid Vigor. And, when you do outcrosses and a lot of times, not always, there is a small percentage that those dogs will reproduce themselves. But the hard, fast rule usually is a hybrid dog or an outcross dog is not going to, they may be awesome. A lot of times you get the extremes of the gene pool pop out and you get some crazy awesome dogs. But then when you breed them, they're not a strong stud. Well, that's how Tyson was. He was a great dog himself. He produced great dogs, but they were kind of standard. When he bred to a standard dog, he produced standard dogs. When he was bred to a bully female, he could maybe enhance the pups a little bit, size and a little bit with the temperament, but he didn't show up. And that's what happens a lot in hybrid. In cattle, they do hybrid crosses. They'll breed two different types because they'll get more volume of beef. They'll get bigger dogs, but they just have to keep putting those two crosses together to get that outrageous. And really, that's what I've been trying to study, this Brazilian deal. Over there, they call it shocking the blood. So they do these outcrosses. It's an outcross, and they call it shocking the blood. That's like the F1 crosses, which really the F1 crosses don't produce the outrageous stuff. It's when it goes back and it's 3/4, 1/4 American Bulldog, 3/4 the traditional pit bully type dogs. Mm-hmm. That's how Shake is. Shake is a little different. He's a 1/4 American bully. They imported an American bully, Willy Wonka. And then, so he's a 1/4 that, and then he's got a 1/4 of the American Bulldog. And then the other part is all the other stuff. And so it's just a weird breed mix. And, but the thing is, they've done these shock breedings, these outcross breedings, and they just haven't produced 1 or 2 or 3. And it's not always the exact same blood. They produce a lot of pretty outrageous freaking dogs. So it'll be interesting. I know what people think. I think everybody should outcross to a different breed, but I think it should be allowed, especially when the breed is new, because you need the bigger your gene pool base is, as long as everybody's producing, you're using the same 4 breeds, basically 3 breeds, you're going to get similar stuff. But people have always asked me, if money was no object, what would you do? Well, back in the day, the lords of the castle that owned all the property, and they loved bird dogs or coursing dogs or whatever, they had these huge kennels with 150 dogs. They conned the clergy, the monks, into taken care of. They clean up all the dog shit and they whelp all the puppies and raise them, and they test them, and then they cull everything that's not worth a crap. That's kind of what you call population breeding. The cream rises to the top. The best of the best will get bred. Everything else gets flushed out. Well, that's kind of the way a new breed needs to be. The more chances for that click, that dog, the special dog, to come up, and then those dogs get bred together, and they're not too closely bred. So when you got breeders that are line breeding tight and they're locking in good traits, then you got another guy over here that's doing the same thing with very opposite blood or very unrelated blood, then you're going to create strains and bloodlines, and you got that. Then you're off to the races. But the problem is we get these rare breeds, and then new breeds starting out, and the gene pool's closed. They're trying to con everybody into saying, oh, yeah, my great-grandpa bred these, or, these been around since the Roman days, or whatever. It's all bullshit. So just be honest. Let's just produce good dogs.
Right.
Get out there. Let's work as a huge community. You do your thing. Don't worry. The cream is going to rise to the top, and the shit's going to get flushed down the toilet, and the breed is going to move forward. But you're going to run, if you only have, the Doberman may have only had 10 or 15 foundation dogs. And that's probably why it's where it's at now. And they're cool dogs. I love the dogs. They're neat. They're neat dogs. They've got cool personalities. My friend has another one. She got its Russian bred, Vanya. And I know they have something else in there because she's like a 70s, kind of like a 70s Doberman. And she's bigger and a little bit stronger. Her markings are a little bit different. But I'm not sure she's 100% genetically clean either. I don't know. You know, Russians, the Europeans, some of them are great breeders. Like all these KNVP sport dogs, you know, I have a friend that used to be big time PSA trainer and all this stuff. And he used to tell me, oh yeah, the European dogs, they used to just call everything, oh, it's a Dutch Shepherd, it's a Dutch Shepherd. And then I think they got to the point where like, we don't really care. I mean, we're just.
Yeah.
And so then they started telling stories of like, yeah.
And then.
We need more man drive or something. We'll use American Bulldog if we need a little more.
Pit bull,
yeah, they'll put pit bull. They even talk about they put greyhound in. They use a little different dog. You wouldn't be able to tell when you look at them because they're not 50% the outcross. They, you know, but it's just reshuffling the genes and adding. Yeah, I'll tell you, from breeding oldie type dogs, creating my own breed. I've kind of seen what it is when you cross, and when you get to like 3/4 of the same genetics, same kind of close family of dogs, it almost doesn't matter what is in there. Yeah, if you took a Great Dane and bred a Chihuahua to it, and then bred back to the Great Dane, once it gets to about 1/4, I don't think you'll notice any Chihuahua. I mean, maybe a trait or something will come in, but they may be a little different depending on what you're selecting from. And I think that's what happened with the American Bulldog. You know, I was convinced, yeah, this is an old breed, man. They've been breeding them in the United States forever. But then I got into it and started looking at it. I was like, wait a minute, Mac the Masher, what's his pedigree? And he's not white. He looks like a blockier-headed, you know, Colby Pit Bull. And then this Dick the Bruiser was another supposedly foundation dog, and he kind of looked like a boxer English, you know, I don't know, pit bull, something crossed with something bully.
Right.
And there's no pedigree on him either, you know. And it's like, well, if these dogs have been in people's families, come on, you don't know the name of the dogs, you don't know Bobby Joe and Dingo bred to make Bobby, you know, you don't know, you would know the dog's name, you could write it down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't expect pictures and video, you know, but you know, if you remember the name of the dogs in your family, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Especially if you used them for work, you'd know them.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Let me ask you this. I'm sorry to cut you off. No. I'm gonna tell you right now. I need you to come back. We ain't got to wait a long time. I'm not gonna ask you about Embark right now, but that's something I was gonna ask you about. We're gonna do that on another show, right?
Embark's a good tool, but please, every time I hear somebody say, oh, my dog's embarked, it's pure. I'm like, shut up, please don't. Your dog, embark is a tool. The same as, you know, checking a dog's hips. If I have a good pin hip, I can't say, hey, my dog's a pure dog because it has good hips. What? It doesn't. Embark breed profile is not 100%. And don't get me wrong, I have dogs that test 100%. But it just means that the marker, they've come up with certain markers in the database that they have, and they find that those are unique. But there's actually, you know, billions of genes in markers.
Yeah.
And
that's the stuff the data they do have. I found out they come from the Genome Project. I called them. And they told me the data they're using, they get from us.
Yeah, in American Bulldogs, the first genetic problem they had, and they only had it came from one female, I think. And that female was very well bred and very sought after. She produced good working dogs. And it's called NCL, and it's like some weird nerve damage or something to the spinal cord. Mm-hmm. I've never had it. I've never seen anything test having it that didn't have her in the background. I've asked it before, but I mean, that I don't use that. I never use that female in my dogs. But so early on, they developed a test, and they say that the first breed profiles, that was the database. That was the only database they had. So a lot of the breed profiles are fashioned against this female. Well, this female was a result of a dog called Country Boy. Country Boy's mother was just no pedigree, off a porch. There's people saying, oh, she was a Carver Pit Bull, bred to a Johnson dog that probably had a lot of St. Bernard and English Bulldog in it. And then her mother was a dog from South Carolina that was bought off a porch. A black lady had it as a puppy, and she was pissed because it kept killing her chickens. So this guy, Jay Dorsey, who owns a trophy hunting lodge, and you know, he has trophy hunting hogs, and people come there and pay money, and he lets his dogs loose, and they catch the hog, and the hunter kills it, and then mounts this big thing on it. You know, they pay a ton of money for that. So he had these dogs. So he bought her off the front porch. She had no pedigree. They didn't know what the hell she was, but she was a good catch dog. And so that's what our whole thing is mainly based on. Now, I imagine they amend it the more dogs come in. So it's not an exact science. And if they tell you, they're real kind of tricky, because if you say, what's the effectiveness? I've heard literature where they say it's 90%. That is bullshit, because I've researched it, because I read an article, because like I said, my parents are both from Sicily. They came here in the 50s. So when they came out with what's the DNA
Embark?
Ancestry.com.
Yeah, okay.
I bought it, and I thought, oh, this would be cool. I want to see. Well, this is back when they started. I was 72%. I was 72% Greek Italian. They didn't even have a thing for Italian. It was Greek Italian. I'm North African. I'm fucking Irish. I'm British. I'm from the Caucasus. A little bit of all these different things, and I'm like, wow, man, my ancestors.
You can't really trust it, because I know for a fact, because you know, both of my parents are white.
I know.
I'm bullshit.
Well, I tell you what. I tell you, one of the reasons why they did studies is because, you know, a lot of African Americans wanted, there was a whole cottage industry with these, where you know, send in your DNA, we'll tell you what part of Africa you're from.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of them wanted to know that, because it's a lost history. So it was a cottage industry. Well, then some of these people were skeptical. So what they did is they tested with every different company, because there were several companies that specialized in African descent. And they got crazy results. One guy would say, you're from Kenya. The other guy said, oh, you're from here. You're from there. They didn't come out. So there was a study done, a peer-reviewed study, and I don't know how they conducted it, but it said, and this is back a few years ago, it said that the effectiveness is 55% accurate. So that's like tossing a coin, you know. And the funny thing is, I was still on that Ancestry.com. I did my dad too, just to kind of compare. And then a couple of years ago, you know, because it's been many years and they've got a bigger database, they said, oh, this is your new mix. And I'm like, oh, what is it? Oh, I'm 97% Italian all of a sudden. But, you know, what is an Italian? What's a Sicilian? A Sicilian is this little island. All these trade ships and slave ships, you know, went by. And there's a whole, they were invaded by the Moors. African Moors came over, you know, when they went throughout Europe and pulled us out of the Dark Ages. They don't want to tell you that story, but they civilized them. Yeah, they did. They taught these medieval Europeans to brush their teeth and wipe their ass and take a bath. And they set up universities. You know, if you go to Sicily, a lot of the churches were originally mosques. They converted them back, you know, when they left, because the Moors left, the friggin' French came in, the Greeks came in, the Vikings came in, everybody went in there. There was an island paradise, you know, and they were taken over all the time. So, you know, like I said, it's a miracle that we're here. But some of us were born from, you know, somebody broke their chain on the ship, jumped. He was a criminal that killed somebody in Timbuktu, and he pulled up on the shores and said, "I'm a Sicilian."
Yeah,
hey, look
yeah,
at this
yeah,
woman.
yeah, yeah.
Or
Like,
how about, Vikings come in, you watch a Viking shows, they kill all the men and rape all the women. Well, they might have gotten pregnant, and that's where that was one of your ancestors.
right, yeah, like at the conception of America, a lot of people don't know. Like, man, look, it was a lot of criminals let go at the beginning to
Oh
get this
yeah.
shit popping, man. For
Well,
real.
I think they sent most of the criminals to Australia, and they sent all the religious fanatics to the United States.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, man, I'm gonna let you go because we in on 2 hours. So,
All right, cool.
yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't get to all y'all questions, man. But this was a really good show. Vito, you packed it out tonight, man. They was in here, boy. But
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea for people to open their minds a little bit, especially with these new breeds, to do it right. Let's do this shit right. Let's create a bigger gene pool and refine it from there, and hopefully we'll leave a healthier, stronger breed. And because whatever we're doing is not working. When you got King Charles Spaniels that their brain's too big for their skull, and Dobermans that fall over dead for no notice whatsoever, boxers that get cancer, all these weird things.
right,
and I'm sure
and
the
then
vets,
we talked a lot about the Doberman. I hadn't been seeing Dobermans for a very long time. Now I'm seeing them again. I saw 2 today. Nice one.
at the ABKC Nationals, there was like 4 Dobermans there. And let me tell you, they were nice looking dogs.
Yeah. But
They're like, I know one guy did a podcast. He's into pockets, I think Pocket American Bullies. And he's like, yeah, I got this Czech Doberman, But yeah, there's a lot of people that love that breed. I love it. It gave me negative vibes. I don't think I'd ever want to get back to it, but I don't know what they would do. Like, that's a whole different show.
Phenotypically, they look badass, but man, overall, I ain't been hearing a lot of good shit about them.
Yeah, they're cool dogs, but it's just like they have those diseases or genetic issues locked in.
Let me ask you this, Vito, before we get this. Will be my last one. I'm sorry, when I got you here, I'm such a hog. You know what I mean?
No problem.
But so when you was talking about Embark, I don't use it a lot for the ancestry stuff. I use it for health, right? Just so I don't run into things. But
Me too. Yeah.
do you think eliminating carriers help the breeds? Say you had a carrier that was everything the breed should be. Do you think because he's carrier of certain things, he should be eliminated out of the gene pool?
No, it depends on when you say he's got everything. If he's got everything, if he's an incredible dog with incredible traits, yeah, that's the reason why you test. Breed him to a non-carrier. I have a dog I paid too much money for as an outcross. He's not a bad dog. He's totally, he's a different bullier type American Bulldog. And he's got some pretty nice dogs in his background. I embarked him, and he's a friggin' ick carrier, and he's a HUU carrier, the kidney thing, which that's a new thing there's tests for in American Bulldogs. And so I bred him to a female, which is like a total outcross, because my dogs are like bizarro compared to that gene pool. And I was kind of disappointed because I forgot all the weird shit I got when I first started out, like kind of cartilagey, softer dogs, puppies that kind of have, I don't know, that weird hollow hair like an English Bulldog.
Yeah.
I got 2 females that had totally smashed faces and screw tails or kinky tails. And then so I kept the 2 best males, and I sent in their Embark. One of them was a HUU carrier, and one of them was an ick carrier. So I'm like, well, I got to pick my poison here. Which one do I want? And eventually I just ended up selling them both because I had pet homes that wanted them. They're healthy dogs. They're going to be carriers. So if you breed to another carrier, anytime you breed them, you could create a carrier. So I still have them. I'm still going to do another breeding with them probably. And then I'll probably pet home them.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Yeah, there's stuff I want to get from him. And he's not the greatest dog. I can't say he's the greatest dog for sure, but he's an outcross I paid a ton of money for. And I'm going to give him another chance and try him before I retire him. But yeah, breeding is not. You're never going to find a dog that's perfect. I mean, in American Bulldogs, we don't have cardiomyopathy yet. Hopefully, we'll never have that shit. But
yeah,
the good thing about American Bulldogs is early on, people were crossing all kinds of stuff in, mainly some of it because they had to, because there was things that needed correcting and nowhere to go. Some of the crosses are known.
Would you say that's the danger of the crossing, the health issues?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you do something, you bring something new in, you're gonna, outcrossing isn't to say, the best thing to do, and inbreeding is not the best thing to do, and line breeding is not the best thing to do. You need all of them. But cutting the gene pool down and cutting the genetics down, and from a small gene pool there's no winning there. You're not gonna. It's a bleak future. You need a big gene pool. You need the cream to rise to the top and improve. Then you got better stock to breed from.
That's right. All right. Okay, Vito. Man, I appreciate you. I just want to tell the audience, Vito has been here many times. I mean, you probably don't know. We're getting so many new people that's watching now that Vito and Schoolboy has a very good episode. You got to go down in the vault.
Yeah, Schoolboy is the only one I want to get on the program with. I listen to. I was working this morning. I was listening to him, and he does this thing. He's done like 12 of these interviews with Mr. Gray.
Mr. Gray, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I love the ones with Hunter, man. I listen
to a lot of those too.
Yeah. Hey, I got a King of Dog Talk shirt on, but Schoolboy, woo, man, he got a lot of work. He interviewed too. A lot of people, you don't think about that. He interviewed a lot of people as well. So
him and that Mr. Gray, those are the best.
They are, yeah, man. That's high level stuff, bro.
It's not just game stuff too, but I mean it's conditioning and same results of breeding and stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's it's out of this world. It really is. I've been seeing some podcasts. I'll tell you something there, Blake. It's something really coming with it, man. One of my best interviews I think I've done recently was with the lady from Pure Dog Talk. The judge, AKC judge, she's into the wire hair pointer, and I mean, I listen to. They have all the series of the AKC breeders.
Right, yeah. And
I listen to a lot of those.
Yeah, and one thing about the wire hair pointer being it's AKC dog, but if it's hunting season, they not at the shows because they actually doing the work. Yeah,
those pointers, field trial dogs, that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
because the competition for hundreds of years was the work. They didn't care. The reason why there's so many different varieties of pointers is because they were doing the same job, but they were using different ingredients. And the dogs are just bred to a high pitch of health, athleticism.
Yes, sir.
If you've ever seen a 6-week-old or 8-week-old pointer pointing, like the whole litter's pointing at shit, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah,
it's not taught. It's genetic.
Genetic, yeah. It's genetic.
We're talking a long history.
That's a breed everybody ain't messing with. That's not a breed. That's a for function dog. Purpose dog, hunting dog. Somebody said, Young Reddy said, I didn't ask about hybrid vigor. We'll do it next time because we're running late. But I am going to be bringing some geneticists in and things and things like that that actually by trade, not got just a degree in it. Some breeders who mess with that stuff on a high level, and we'll be talking about stuff like that. So
some of those cattle farmers, those geneticists that breed cattle, it's a different thing. They're breeding for more volume of meat and quick maturing, whatever. I don't know, but
2026, Vito. I'm looking forward to some really good conversations and on some different animals too. Stuff like you just said, yeah.
I love listening. I love listening to your podcast.
I appreciate it.
I put the earbuds in and I start doing work. I listen to all kinds of stuff. Sometimes it blends in. Somebody says something, I'm like, run over to my phone. It's like, what did he say?
Yeah. Hey, when certain ones of y'all, especially guys like you, Vito, that's been in a long time, when y'all tell me, hey man, I've been listening, man, my heart be like, what do you hear?
I like to listen because I tell you, the longer I'm into this, the more I realize when I first started, I thought I knew it all. And the longer I get into it, I realize, hey, we're just scratching the surface. We've been thinking wrong. I'm a clueless idiot. Like it either makes people mad or it makes people like think. And a lot of people in the chat, they thinking, man. So yeah, it's been good. It's been very good for me, Vito. It's done helped me with so much internal stuff like public speaking and dealing with comments and just I'm not easily embarrassed. I wouldn't be doing it if I was ever easily embarrassed. But I try never to look at the comments because
right, yeah. Well,
there's some people that just want to piss you off. They just want to get under your skin, or I don't know. Yeah. They're just pissed off about something. They want to be an asshole. And,
right.
That's okay, one thing. You get old, your testosterone goes down. You start realizing, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't waste my time.
But I mess with that.
Oh yeah. That type stuff, man. I learned that quick. You know what I mean? Sometimes I still get irritated, but a lot of it online is just people playing games, people trying to get a reaction. You almost got, how the people say you got to read dogs, you got to know how to read men. What is he trying to get me to do? You know what I mean? So you just kind of get used to it, so, but Vito, thank you once again, sir.
All righty.
Hey, how do people get in contact you? Where do we follow you at? I know you got a Facebook group too as well, if you don't mind.
I should know all that. On Facebook, I started this chat board called Brazilian Bull Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So on Facebook, if you just plug in Brazilian Bull Nation, it's pretty interesting. If you're interested in the breed, you'll see a lot of pictures and videos, and it's interesting. It's pretty interesting. I took my website down. I'm probably going to start all that stuff. I'm just trying to find time. I need to figure out some service where I can get web reception in my house. I mean, I get phone reception, but I just can't rely on it. That's why I'm sitting in the car.
You basically need that Starlink. And I heard it's high as hell.
My sister has Starlink, and I used it on a podcast with you, and I had to disconnect from it because it was screwing up. So I don't know.
Yeah, you need to big dog.
I live a little farther out than my sister.
Yeah. Well, Vito, I thank you again. I know you got to ride home. You came out to do this for us.
All right.
We'll do it again 2026.
All right. Sounds good, brother. Thank you.
All right, man. Appreciate you. We out. Give your dog the best start possible. We offer proven tools, products, and supplements backed by our real-world experience and our passion for healthy dogs. Step into the realm of canine wisdom with our podcast, NWA Cane Corsos, where we interview dog men and women from around the globe. Discover their talents and insights on breeding, training, nutrition, and the rich history of dogs. Tune in to the most underrated yet influential dog podcast on social media. Your journey into the dog world starts here.